Welcome to the first episode of IWHY. I will hunt you. Today's target will be, you guessed it,
Diablos.
Diablos is a first-generation flying wyvern, first seen on the original Monster Hunter game on the PlayStation 2. Whether you love him or hate him, you're gonna be a Diablos expert by the end of this video. Let's start with his elemental and status weaknesses as well as his weak points. Our favorite element when fighting Diablos is ice, followed by dragon and water, and finally thunder. He is immune to fire. As for status effects and blights, he is most weak to paralysis and is pretty resistant to stun. Now, let's get through his weak points or hit zone values. These are different for severing damage, blunt damage, and damage from projectiles like gunshots and arrows. His weakest spots are as follows. For severing damage, it's his abdomen, followed by the tail and head. For blunt damage, it's his abdomen, followed by his head, then his horn and his back. And for projectile damage, there's a little twist, with his wings being the weakest, followed by his tail and his head. Diablos has 4 breakable parts. His horns break one after the other with enough damage to his head, his tail is severable with enough slicing damage, and his back can break with enough damage to his abdomen. Be careful not to hit the tail tip when aiming for the tail, as it is a hard spot and doesn't take much damage. It's worthy to note that a weapon with green sharpness might bounce off a Diablos horn and tail tip at times. Next up, we will look at Diablos' body language and how to read his moves. Anticipating every movement gives us openings for counterattack or simply avoiding damage. So, let's see his moves. First of all, his roar. Diablos has one of the strongest roars in the game, flinching everybody in the proximity of his sound waves. To completely nullify this effect, you will need 5 points in the earplug skill. It's very distinct from all of his moves, so you can confuse an upcoming roar with something else. Fortunately, even if you get hit by the roar, you have time to react after your hunter recovers from the flinch. The next move we'll talk about is the hip check. This is a move you will see commonly shared among wyverns. Diablos enters a stance, similar to a leg stretching posture, then slams his target with his whole body. This is one of Diablos' bread and butter skills. He will use it very often, between moves, or simply doing it multiple times in a row. It has a pretty wide and funny hitbox. If you get hit by any part of his body, your hunter will be sent rolling. You can avoid this move by rolling away from his body, or, if timed correctly, through him. Doing the latter is pretty hard, so don't get discouraged if you don't succeed on the first try. Following the hip check, we will talk about the double impale. Diablos takes a breath while lifting his head up, striking diagonally towards the ground with his horns, twice. This move gives fair warning, but it covers a huge area in front of Diablos, and it deals heavy damage. Get hit by any of the 2 strikes, and your hunter will be sent flying. Be careful though. If you get hit by the first strike, while being mid-air, if you use a wireback to recover, you will be hit by the second strike as well. Getting hit by both of these usually results in a feint. So, if you get hit by the first strike, make sure your hunter lands on the ground, then use your wireback to recover footing. Next up is his charge, which has 3 variations. The slow charge, quick charge, and bait charge. The slow charge is a move Diablos uses when you've kept some distance from him. He will run in a straight line with his horns hanging low. At the end of his charge, he will slam the brakes, having him slide on the ground for a small distance. You can avoid this move by walking or rolling to either side of the charge. You can try to stop his charge by flinching him with a heavy damage hit to the head for some cool looking clips, like this. The quick charge is similar to the slow one, except it's faster and used at close range. At the end of this charge, he will lift his head up in an attempt to strike his target, stopping him in place. This move is dangerous, as it has very little warning before it's cast, especially if Diablos is mad. Be wary and try to dodge or block it. The bait charge is basically a quick charge with a twist. While it gives a fair warning before it happens, I've been baited a lot of times into it, hence the name I chose. Diablos takes 3 small steps away from his target while looking at it with the corner of his eye. After the steps, he turns around and performs a quick charge. Getting hit by any of the charges will send your hunter rolling. It's worthy to note that Diablos can get his horns stuck during a charge. Simply bait him into charging at you with a pillar on your back. Avoid his attack before it connects, and he's going to be stuck, like this. Moving on, we'll look at his tail moves. The tail swipe, tail slam, double tail slap, and the rock throw. The tail swipe is a common move between a lot of wyverns. Diablos will do a 180-degree turn in an attempt to hit you with his tail. He will do this move up to 2 times in a row towards the same direction. Be careful though, because while it's most common for Diablos to cast this move twice in a row, sometimes he does it once, then starts a chain to a move like a hip check or a quick charge. Since Diablos is generally tall, if you're close to his legs and on even ground, it's unlikely that this move will hit you. If you think it will, simply roll towards the direction the tail came from. If you get hit, your hunter will be sent rolling. The tail slam, as the name implies, has Diablos briefly looking behind him before slamming his tail to the ground. This move is pretty quick and can catch you off guard. Pay attention to his legs, as he will take a small step back at the same time his tail is about to drop. The rock throw is a weird but fun move. Diablos will turn around and smack his tail to the ground, trying to snipe you with a big rock emerging from the place of impact. This move and the double impale have pretty similar animations on the first 1 second, so you might confuse the two. This move is relatively slow and therefore easy to dodge. The double tail slap is a move Diablos will do when you're right behind him, usually after finishing a slow charge or a tail swipe. Diablos will swing his tail twice diagonally on the ground behind him, as if it was a broom. Get hit by this move and you will trip and fall on your knees. Now, before getting to his digging moves, let's quickly mention the bite. Similar to other wyverns, Diablos attempts to bite the target standing in front of him. You can dodge this move by rolling to the right, away, or towards his legs. Compared to the rest of his kit, this move deals the least amount of damage. Getting hit by this move will have your hunter fall on his butt. Finally, let's talk about Diablos' strongest moves. Let's call them ultimates. His 2 ultimates are his emerge and jumping emerge attacks. Diablos digs the ground, burrowing himself underneath. Get ready. The jumping emerge attack is the weakest of the 2, since it can be avoided easier, so let's start with that. While burrowed, Diablos moves in a direction away from the target in a fixed distance. After reaching his destination, he emerges and makes an impressive jump towards the target, swinging both his horns and tail on landing. The tail can reach pretty far onto his side from the momentum, so make sure you have that in mind after you've avoided his horns and body. Now, let's see his normal emerge attack. Right after burrowing, Diablos heads straight for his target. Upon arrival, he emerges, attacking with his horns from down below. Getting hit by any of his ultimates and you will be sent flying, followed by a painful to look slam on the ground. While sent flying, use your wire bug to recover. We need to do this fast, as Diablos has a couple of seconds recovering from his ultimate attack. We use times like this to deal some extra damage. But Kazor, these moves hit hard, how am I gonna dodge them? Very simply put, don't stand still. When Diablos starts digging, run until you see his pattern. If he's heading towards you, he locked the location you were at the beginning of his movement. Simply rolling away a couple of times from that location, and you will have successfully dodged his attack. It will take him some time to fully emerge. Use this time window to punish him. As for the jumping attack, the same principle is applied. Stay on the move and keep distance from your previous location. If you were quick enough, this will be relatively easy to dodge. After his jump, he has a recovery animation. Make sure to get close and deal some damage to him. This is great, we covered all of his moves. Let's quickly talk about making this hunt even easier, using our environment and equipment. As previously mentioned, Diablos can get stuck if his horns connect with a pillar. The pillars found in the sandy plains will also leave a quicksand trap behind. Bait Diablos into this trap and the sand will swallow him, leaving you an opening for free attacks. We also have to note that both shock traps and pitfall traps are effective against Diablos at all times. Diablos hates loud noises, so for this hunt, bring some sonic bombs with you. After Diablos burrows and comes towards you for an emerge attack, simply throw a sonic bomb to his direction. Doing so will immediately unburrow him, cancelling his move and leaving him open for attacks. While fighting Diablos, try to cut his tail and break his horns. Cutting his tail will disable his tail slam and rock throw moves, and will also shorten the reach of his tail swipe and double tail slap. Break his horns, and you will reduce the reach of his charges. As mentioned before, it's best for your weapon to have minimum of blue sharpness when encountering a Diablos, as his horns and tail tip will bounce off your attacks if you have green or lower sharpness, leaving you vulnerable. Lastly, be extra careful when Diablos is mad. His moves hurt a ton more, and he's faster too. Don't underestimate him, and with all this information you have now, he should be an easy hunt. That sums it up for our Diablos guide. Thank you all for watching until this point. What monster do you want to see next? Let me know by clicking on the poll you see on your screen. Make sure to leave a like if you found this video useful, subscribe for more content, and ring the bell to be notified about new videos. Until then, stay safe.